In 1947, India had been left a nation divided, deindustrialized and with mass poverty. 75 years have passed since, and today we can hope that India will eradicate poverty and move towards mass prosperity. The question is, what will it take us to achieve that goal? Hopefully by 2047, the 100th year of our independence. And to debate that, I am joined by Sanjiv Bajaj, President CII and the Chairman and MD of Bajaj Finserv, Sanjeev Puri, Vice President of CII and Chairman and MD of ITC, Chandrajit Banerjee, the DG of CII, and Rajan Navani, the Chairman of the CII Council on India at 75. Sanjiv Bajaj, I am coming to you with that point and taking off from what the Prime Minister said. Viksit Bharat, a developed India, not just a developing India. What do you think it will take us to get there? At least 7% of annual growth for the next 25 years to hit that target and hopefully become the second largest economy in the world. Sanjiv Bajaj, that question was for you.
Sure. Let me firstly start by wishing a happy 75th Independence, Siddharth, to you and to all your viewers. I think a number of areas need to be focused on. One is that we need to ensure that we are able to provide education, quality healthcare and livelihood for all Indians. Not just as a responsibility, but to ensure that the bottom 40%, 50% of our economy end up becoming a large market for everyone as well. So the first is to ensure that it also helps to create an inclusive India. The second is to be able to build capacity and capability. And within this, the government's PLI schemes, 14 schemes that have already been, or 14 sectors that have already been included. CII has a few more suggestions ready. How can we use these to create national champions across these sectors, not only for the domestic market, but for the world? The third is to use employment-linked incentive schemes, and this is something that CII has been recommending, because a number of sectors, whether it's tourism, whether it's digital animation, games, they have a large employment potential and need as well. So how do we incentivize those? This to me is important. And finally, I would say building a strong Atmanirbhar financial services sector is very key if we have to give wings to all these other sectors so that we can play the role of a developed country in the coming years.
A good point that you make there, Sanjiv Bajaj, from PLI to ELI, we'll pick that up, but I want to come to you, Sanjeev Puri. Is 7% growth possible? You represent a company that knows the pulse of India and more importantly, the pulse of Bharat. Do you think that kind of growth is possible, and what will it take us to get there?
Well, let me start also by wishing you and all the viewers a very happy Independence Day. And I'm extremely optimistic. I think that not only 7%, there is potential to grow beyond 7%. Not only because there is a huge and growing consuming market in India, and besides that, I think the world is also emerging as a big opportunity in many areas where we can play to India's strengths. And I think many of the pillars, India Initiative, the PLI schemes in the agri sector like FPO, the agri infrastructure, so many of the building blocks are in place, and some additional facets need to come in, like some of which my colleague just alluded to. So really to meet that aspiration and beyond, I think three things to my mind are very important. One is that investments to scale up manufacturing capacity to meet the growing demands of India, as well as the global, to make a mark in the global arena. And I think the private sector has the capacity and the outlook is very positive, and that's something that we should see unfolding over a period of time. The second is really to take world-class Indian brands onto global stage, and as Indian enterprises acquire that scale and stature, I think beyond exporting unbranded produce, we have to move to a stage where we start exporting branded produce that anchor value chains in India. That's where the employment aspect also will get addressed. And the third bit is to transform the agriculture sector, and there's a huge opportunity through digitization and the emerging technologies that are being developed, particularly by the agri-tech players. There's a lot of technology that can do good to agriculture. We also need to integrate R&D and innovation into it. And of course, we also need to deal with the issues of the climate crisis. On one hand, it is decarbonization. At the same time, considering that the 2 degrees is going to happen, we also need to learn to live with it. So adaptation is also going to assume a very critical role, and that's particularly important for the vulnerable sections of the society.